ideas for marbling with resin, and we're going to use these cute little trays that, because I think a lot of us have got these trays. What we've got is some gorgeous pigment pastes from Create and Bloom. Got various gorgeous colours in these, all bluey colours, and we've got some alcohol inks from Let's Resin, again various shades of blue. I've got also a lovely blue mica powder, also from Create and Bloom, and we've got some little starfish because I think I kind of want a bit of a marine theme to this. We're also going to be using the relief paste and foiling. First one then. Now I'm just going to put in this very first one just some clear resin with a bit of pigment paste just to give me a base colour. Then we're going to put it to one side while we focus on the other one. And I hope this will be enough resin. This is Apex High Gloss, and it is just a nice, easy to use 1-to-1. I put it in my pot. As usual, I'm stirring too fast. Don't do this. And so I've got a load of bubbles in. However, I trust my Apex resins. They degas really, really well. So I'm not going to panic over it. I don't know whether that's enough. I can't remember how much these moulds actually take. You know me, I don't measure stuff. I tend to just chuck it in and hope for the best. Right, now I'm going to get a nice pale brown colour. Here you go, sea foam. That'll be our background colour for our first one. Look at that colour. Isn't it lovely? Let's put the other one out of the way for a minute. There we are. Now, being a pigment paste, all I need to do is give it a little stir in case it's settled. Look how thick it is. Some of them are even thicker than that, the ones in this range. There's a massive amount of pigment in there. So to make that whole pot completely opaque, just that bit I've got left on my stick there, will probably be enough, to be honest, because we're going to do our marbling on top of that using the alcohol inks. So this just needs to go into cure. But yeah, look at that. That's pretty much opaque from that tiny, tiny bit. These little pots go such a long way. It's a much stronger pigmented medium than the liquid ones. Fantastic, isn't it? A lovely colour. I'll put you the links for everything I'm using down below, by the way. Obviously, we've got stuff from Let's Resin, from Create and Bloom, and we've got some really cheap moulds from Amazon. As they're cheap moulds, they don't tend to last as long as like the high grade moulds that I sometimes use, but they're perfectly good enough for like messing about, experimenting, and for beginners, you know, when you just want something relatively economical to get going with, these are just the job. Right, now to avoid bubbles around the edges, I tend to pour in the middle and let it run down the edges. I'll show you what I do about this. And we just tip it and let it run round like that. Now that tends to avoid getting any bubbles in those awkward angles, is to let it run round like that. However, to make 100% sure, before it's full, I tend to do this. This is a micro brush. They've got soft, fluffy tips. Again, buy them in big bags from Amazon. Very, very cheap. And I just go around the edges like that. Now, the reason I use those rather than my stirring stick or anything like that is that I don't want to scratch the mould, because although these might be cheap moulds, I still don't want to wreck them. But doing that just pulls out any little bubbles that you might have in those corners. And then we're going to fill it up. And that's it for this one for now. We're going to do our marbling after this cures. Oh gosh, I guessed that well, didn't I? I'm going to keep this cup handy because I do want a bit of that colour for the next one. The next one we're actually going to marble as we make. So we're going to go in with all of our different colours right from outset. Now, this one, we're going to need a bunch of different colours. So I'm going to mix up some more of that blue. And so mixing that up well, I'm going to leave it to sit. Now the reason I'm going to leave it to sit is I want it to just thicken a little. So I'm going to probably leave it for like half an hour. Look at this one. I'll tell you what it's called in a minute. Is it marine blue? I think it's called marine blue. Again, only going to need the bit that's on my stick. Say contrast, I mean as in terms of darkness. Look at that, isn't that lovely? Really dark, and again, I probably didn't need to use anywhere near as much paste as that. Then we have got Seashore, which I haven't even opened yet, so shall we have a good look at this one together? I bought these colours in sets, by the way. If you're going to treat yourself to some of these gorgeous colours, sets, like with most things, work out even better value. In fact, I've just ordered another set. Isn't that gorgeous? And of course, we've got the white. Now, what I do want is one shimmery colour. Now, this is a mica powder, and look at that colour. And this time I'm going to put quite a lot because I do want it to be quite strong. This one's called Cloudy Days. And again, these you can get these in sets as well, also from Create and Bloom, but look at that. And I've got plenty of clear left as well, so we can decide what we want to do with that. I think I might go... The clear I will keep some in reserve, but I've got a pot of clear, that's what I mean. Should we go a lot darker? I haven't even tried this yet. It's called Almost Midnight. Is that too dark? It might be, but we can lighten it up if it is. I seem to be determined to get as covered with pigment as I possibly can today. I do admire these people who can craft without making a mess. I try to keep it pretty clean in here because I think it's easier for you to see what I'm doing if I keep cleaned up after myself. I might actually get some different gloves because these are starting to get on my nerves. By the way, the right gloves for resin are nitrile gloves, and never ever reuse them. Unless they are gloves that say they're chemical safe and are intended for reusing. But your standard surgical nitrile gloves are great, but they are one thing you can't economise on by reusing. And yeah, I know it's wasteful. You know, safety is safety at the end of the day. Let's see how dark it is in our resin. I mean, I do want something really deep to be a good colour contrast. Yes. Deep colour contrast. So we've got a lovely range from really pale to really dark now, haven't we? I don't know. Is it too dark? I might just take just a tiny dot out of my white. Just a tiny dot and put that in. Just bring it down just a slight notch. I am sitting down now. So I'm just going to adjust my microphone because it's kind of handy if you can hear me, isn't it? There we go, that should do it. Right, now what we need to do is let these sit for a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to go and make a cup of tea, but I want these to thicken up some. So that is our next step. So I'll be back with you shortly when they've thickened up. They've started to cure and started to thicken, that's the main thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pour like in little lines and blobs. Okay, so we are, let me get my little cloth so it only blobs when I want it to blob. I made a blob. Then let's go in with our pearly one. And then the darker ones. So they, oops, especially as I've done that, these will merge. But what I'm hoping is they will keep a certain amount of definition between the colours. Let's go in with this one. Now this is the very dark one, so I think we want to go quite a little bit sparing and go around kind of around the edges of where we put that a dark one already. Now, as regards how much of this will sink underneath, time will tell. Yeah, the other side, I mean, this side's already looking very pretty, isn't it? But the other side, who knows what it's doing? And that is the difficulty with marbling into a mould that this is going to be the back. Because we just don't know what this is going to do we really, from the other side? It should work, it'll work from this side. I mean, I do this a lot when I'm making geodes. It's just whether it'll work through from the other side. That is the big question. So I'm just going back over, trying to go in roughly the same places as I went with the last once over, building up that thickness of those colours. Keep pushing down, that's the idea. It's not very geode from this side anyway, isn't it? That's for sure. Now you see why I went a little bit sparing with the shimmer one. Shimmer stuff tends to take over a little bit, and sometimes that's what you want, and sometimes it's not, so go a little bit sparing with it, even if you do want quite a strong colour of it. If that makes sense. Someone's asked me recently to do a dirty pour. I will do a dirty pour at some point. It's something I don't typically do, but I will give it a try. Because really for marbling, it ought to work, hasn't it? Okay, let's get brave and do a little bit more of the pearl. And of course we've got some white. Now the white tends to sink, so I've left it till last. Now, whether it'll sink through all this sort of volume, who knows? But we'll see. So here we go with the white. I'm going to run the white along the edge, I think, of where the sea foam is. And I am going up and over the sides intentionally now, so I don't get like a stop and a start end. So let's see if this goes through. Now, clearly this isn't going to be full because I didn't mix it quite enough, unless I go in with some clear. Now, what you can do with your clear is go over, splat it in the middle and it'll push all the colours out. We know that from blooms and various other techniques, don't we? However, I don't want to do that because I want to make sure I still, well, try to make sure I still get this marble effect. So what we're going to do with the clear is do very similar to what we've done with the other colours. We're just going to drizzle it across, like so. And this should also blend and give sort of slightly translucent areas, rather than just chucking it in the middle, which I say we could do. Now don't forget, you don't have to be obliged to fill the whole thing right up. What we can do is just put a clear backing on it at the end. I just hope that this ends up as interesting as it looks on this side. It's looking pretty darn good, isn't it? Now don't forget we've still got the foiling to do on this as well. I'm going to leave it at that now, and clean it up where I went when I went over the edges. I think we're getting to the point where if I mess any more, it's going to be too much. But look at those colours. Aren't they gorgeous? Glad I put the darker one in. I will try and do a really pale one sometime. This is a regular speed cure, as I think of it, resin. It will take, I don't know, I'd say it's cooler in my craft room today, but not cold. I'm thinking probably we can demould in 12, 14 hours. I don't know. I'm probably going to leave them overnight anyway. And we'll do... So what we've got left to do, other than demould, is the alcoholic effects on this one. And on this one, we'll get the foiling done. That one, actually, the alcohol ink should dry really quickly, so we should be able to do the foiling pretty much all in one go, and we can embellish with our little starfish if we want at the end. Right, I'll see you in a good number of hours then. See you later. Okay, time for another play. Now, as you can see, these are cheap moulds, and I've only used them a couple of times, but already it's started to go kind of a little bit dull in places, but that doesn't matter. I've demoulded that pale coloured one, that sea foam. So we're going to have a work on that. So I'm only doing alcohol ink at this point. However, I am going to get my gloves on, just because, knowing me, it will go everywhere. All we're going to do is dot on some alcohol, and this is where we're going for that marble effect again. Now I've got here cerulean, which is like a fantastic, well, it's meant to be like a blue, but it's not, it's more of a green. And we're just going to drizzle it all across their resin like this. So just spreading it, making like lines, and want it thicker and thinner and clearer in places, more transparent. Now, I'm not being too precious because we can play with this afterwards. Now this is just the regular alcohol ink range from Let's Resin, for which I've also got a discount code if you want it, folks, for several countries. It'll all be down in the video description as usual. Right. Okay, so we've got a bit of a marbly effect there. See, it's already starting to stain the resin, which alcohol ink does very well. Now what we're going to do is get all the colours on in the same manner. I wanted to go sort of similar colours to what we've got on the other piece, but I don't know, this might be darker, it might be more dramatic. I'm not sure how this is going to go, really. It's been a while since I've done this sort of thing. Once again, all we're doing is bringing the colours around where I think I want them. I'm going to kind of want a bit of this blue down here as well, I think. A different shade of blue, which I think I'm going to put quite a lot down the bottom here. Just slightly more turquoisey. This is how you open these bottles, by the way. When I first started getting them, I thought you cut the tip off, but no, that's what you do. And again, just running it through like so, taking it through. Now you'll see wherever it's touching the other colours, where there's colours that have dried even or started to dry, this will just blend through them, softening the ink that's already there. I'm going to go do a bit of going across. I'm a bit prone with my marbling or geode effects to go like kind of in one direction, which I think is pretty much what geode type things tend to do. But I wanted something a bit more marbly with these ones. So that's given us quite a lot of density of colour, hasn't it? Let's just see if I've got some white alcohol ink handy. No idea how you pronounce that. Called advanced white, so let's see quite what this does. I've put quite a lot on there, as you can see, and it's already starting to push the colour around. Starting to get some nice paler colours in there. So I'm just going to work this in now and kind of fill in the gaps. We can use as well, by the way, I've got some just ordinary, some neat alcohol here. We can use that to kind of push it around, and you can even spritz it afterwards. Now it will be already staining the surface of the resin. So whatever we do, we are going to still end up with colour where it is. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get really brave and spritz the entire surface and see what it does. Shall we? That's just 99% alcohol. Oh, it's doing interesting blobby patterns and things. So we're getting darker bits, lighter bits. Kind of want to split up those very dark bits. Let's try that again with the white. And again, let's just kind of give it a little bit of direction. We've got any negative spaces now. Don't really want negative space. White in it's good, but not just straightforward negative space, if that makes sense. This appears to be marbling quite well, to be honest. There we go. I want it to go kind of lighter. Now this is going to dry quite quickly because alcohol evaporates, doesn't it? So we should end up with quite a quick result here. So while that is doing its thing, should we demold the other one? I've been dying to see what that looked like. I've been upstairs to my craft room and poked it so many times since we poured it earlier. I think that's going to do. Don't really want it around the edges though, but I seem to have got it on the edge. And look, you can already see that's stained. I'll do something about that later. I'm going to demold this bad boy. Oh, I've got a weird white blob. Well, look at that. Isn't that completely different to that? Amazing, isn't it? But what you have got is all this sort of like weird webbing thing that happens. That's a shame about that. How did I do that? Oh well. But we can work with that and mask it up a bit. Now, let me just zoom you back in because this is where the magic's going to happen with this silver foil. Now, you've seen me use this in other videos. It works so much better on resin than it does on EcoPore. Although it does sort of work on EcoPore. Oh yes, after the last video, a few people said, well, could you not just... Let's go around the edge of that, then it'll look deliberate. Could you not varnish the EcoPore first, then do this? Yeah, you could. It's a good point. I should have mentioned that. You could kind of seal your surface of your EcoPore before you put this on, and it would stick a lot better. Yes, absolutely. Good point, people. Very good point. A whole load of you mentioned that. And I'd forgotten. So I'm just going to draw around where I think I would like lines. So largely it's around the edge of some of the stronger areas of colour. This is by popular demand, by the way. You know, I always say I do requests. After I did the EcoPore ones, people said, well, could you show us that foiling on resin again? But actually in just a solid resin piece rather than on wood. And also, could you do that kind of mad marbling effect, the geode type effect on resin in one of those trays for us? So yes, your wish is my command. And I'm done this quite quickly because this video that I'm talking about only went out a few days ago. So I've just jumped straight on it because I wanted to kind of clear up your questions for you. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, you know I do a lot of this messing about sort of thing and taking your requests. And a lot of my stuff is very suited to beginners, as well as hopefully giving ideas for those who are a little bit more experienced with their resin. So please do subscribe, and then I can keep you posted as to, you know, what else I've got coming up that might be of interest to you. Just want to say while I'm at it, actually, while I'm doing this, big thank you to my channel members and to all of those who put comments and leave me thumbs ups and things like that. You all help my channel grow so much, and I really, really do appreciate it. I couldn't be doing this without you all. So thank you. I think I'm going to leave that. Now, I'm going to let these both dry. I'm still wondering what the heck I'm going to do with that edge. But we're going to let those dry as they are, and then I will show you the final step. Right, and back at it. So these have both cured, which is excellent. Cured as in dried. Now you can see that this has gone clear, where all that glue is, which is great. So we're going to be putting our foil on that. I might get a white acrylic marker and do a bit of extra detailing too. I'm going to do the same process on here. And I think what I've decided to do around the edges is just basically to go around with a silver marker pen. But we've got, as you can see, that's dried really rather nicely. And it just wants that detailing putting in again. Just going to go through. Now, if anybody's finding marbling a bit difficult, or geode effects or whatever, you might want to try this because it's so easy. And of course, I've done this, so it's very, very blotchy and patterny, but you could do a much more simple design that would, you know, work just as well. If you wanted something that, you know what I mean, just a bit chunkier, that sort of thing. It's up to you how much fussiness and fine detail you want. You see where I sprayed that alcohol on? We've got all these really mad effects going on. I think that's probably enough. So there we are. Right, that can now dry. In the meantime, show you how we put the foil on in case you've not seen it before. So it's gone clear, that glue has gone clear, and it's quite tacky. So this is foil that I've used this sheet before. As you can see, it's a bit messy and it's stuck to itself and all sorts. There we are. This comes with the Pebeo foil kit, and look at that. Isn't that lovely? There's a bit there that I clearly missed. We'll come back to that. And that's the thing, you can keep going back over and adding bits. Looks like some of this is actually pulling away anyway. So I probably will need to just go back over it in places. But that's easy enough. We are going to be putting a top coat of resin over this as well, just to seal this in. Which is strange that I'm needing to, because I've never have done with this foil before. I think maybe I was a bit too hasty. Should have let it settle a bit better. Now what we're going to do next is get an acrylic marker pen and put a bit more detail in as well while that is curing. And this is just a very fine tip acrylic marker. And I'm just going to follow where the glue is going. As you can see, this is quite fine. It just gives it more of a marbly kind of geode type, that sort of thing. Bit of something extra. Now, this time I am going to let this glue dry properly until morning. Okay, we're going to try the same thing while I can still see where the glue is in here, and see if our marker does work on the alcohol ink, and would you believe it, it does. I thought it might go all funny. No, that's good. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like once I've done all the silver, won't it? Might end up putting a bit more of the white pen detail in as well then. Just really wanted to see if it would work on top of the ink. And the answer to that is yeah, it does, which is great. Right, I'm going to let that dry. It obviously does work. So I will see you in the morning. We'll get these two finished and I'll do around that edge. And so I'll see you in the morning. Right then, let's see if we can do this. I've started on the foiling on this one and then realised I hadn't left the glue long enough. Probably pressing a bit too hard as well, which doesn't help, does it? So I'm just remembering that you barely have to touch this on, and it works. Isn't that nice? Just wanted that little bit of the silver in there. By the way, if you like these geode type things, marbling or whatever you want to call them, I do have quite a few on my on the channel. I am going to probably infill with some just a layer of clear resin afterwards. I don't always bother, but I'm going to this time. I'm going to go all the way around. Then, like I said, I've got to do something right with this edge, because I should have carried the ink on properly over the edge, probably. Isn't that nice? Right, yes, as I did mess up, I'm going to go around the edges of this with a marker pen. And this is a silver marker pen from Just For You Online. It is a proper resin edging pen, so it's really easy to use. You see how I totally messed up. I could sand it and then top coat it, but you know what? This is the easy option. I'm just going to leave that to dry, and we'll come back in, I don't know, give it half hour. I'll go have a cup of tea and come back and we'll see if that's enough. That'll dry nice and metallic. So I'll see you, I'll see you in half an hour for another coat. Okay, that's coming on nicely. I am just going to put another coat of the silver around. And this won't need top coating, it just stays. As you can see, it's coming on really nice and silvery already. Then what I'm going to do is flood coat these centres. I don't always bother with the where I foiled, but I think because these might have some wear and tear, because they are little trays after all, then it probably wouldn't hurt to just seal over the top of it just in case. If it was just an ornament, I wouldn't bother. Now, final little trick. Because I'm going to be kind of flood coating these anyway, it's just occurred to me a little bit of flourish paste might be nice. Have you come across flourish paste yet? Here it is. I'm going to give it a darn good stir. Now, flourish paste is for kind of doing funky details. It's very sparkly. It's very pigmented. This is the, is it called Snow or something? Hang on. Snowflake one. And it's got a lot of glue in it. Binder, adhesive, whatever you want to call it. But it sticks. It really sticks. And it creates like a, if you want it to, like a texture. So it's just occurred to me that a little bit of this might be nice. It just air dries. So that's nice and easy, isn't it? So I thought what I'd do is just put a little bit in the kind of lighter areas. See, just dabbing it on with a micro brush. And I'm going to fade it out. Like so. And only a bit here and there as well. Not too much. So I'm just following where that colour goes. I don't know whether this will be too much or not, but I just thought it would add that little bit of, just a little touch of sparkle, because this one's got no sparkle. I didn't originally intend it to have sparkle, to be fair. If you want any of this, by the way, it's from Create and Bloom. They do it in a few colours. I'll put you the link below. You know, I usually try to get all the links in there for you. So yeah, just a little bit of a something really. Maybe this is overdoing it. I don't know. What do you think? I just felt like I wanted a bit of sparkle. I'm terrible for sparkle. I just can't leave stuff alone. Right, so when that cures, we should be something a bit different. And just to prove that it will stick to resin as well, let's do the same here. Now this has got quite a lot of sparkle already, so I don't want to go too mad. But I thought just a little bit here, where I've got some big open spaces. Just follow the design, the pattern, because it's quite thick. It will stick to the vertical surface as well. I think it's gorgeous, isn't it? I've used it for edging things too, like edging coasters, so you get something a bit more interesting than just a flat edge like I've done there. I think that'll do. I don't want to overdo it. You can apply this with your finger as well. It's really fun to apply with your finger around the edges of coasters, but that will stick fast. You won't get that off. I've tried to scratch it off the coaster I tested it on. Nothing. There's no way the blinking stuff was coming off. And I tell you what, this weird patch that I don't know quite what I did there, but why not fill that in with some of this? Or is that going to be too white? I'll leave it at that. There's a danger of messing too much. Right, we can let that dry and then I'll just do this flood coat. So just a case of pouring in some resin, really. Although I will do a little bit of a top coat around the rim of the second one. It's going to encourage this up to the edges. So just encouraging up to the corners, and look at how that bloom paste has popped. Now you don't have to top coat the bloom paste by any means. It will just stay there and sparkle on its own because it's got so much of that adhesive in it. But if you know, see what happens if you do coat over it. Right, same with the last one, and this time we are going to go over the edges too. Normally I would use Apex one coat to do this bit because it's thicker and cures quicker, but because I've got high gloss on the go, we're just going to go with the high gloss. So I shall see you later. I've just remembered I was going to put some little starfish in, wasn't I? Now I don't know whether these are a bit overkill, a little bit unnecessary, I don't know, but I got this pot of really cute starfish and I just kind of wanted to. Let me know what you think, folks. Was this an unnecessary addition? Probably. Just going to pop them in and make sure they've got a covering of resin. One thing I don't know, and I do need to investigate, I was given these starfish. I need to find out, they're real, but why? I don't like the idea of dead animals being in my resin. I think it's like an external skeleton type thing with starfish, but I hope so anyway, which means that this isn't actually any body tissue and it's something that's shed its skin naturally. Yeah, so, you know, like snake skin and I know shrimp and things like that skin, isopods do. You think you've got a dead one and you haven't, it's just a skin, that sort of thing. I hope so. I don't know what the score is with starfish, but as I say, I was given these, I've got a little pot of them. I need to do some research. If you know, by the way, save me researching. If you know how these come about. Same with the little tiny snail shells I've got for crafts. Now, snails don't shed their shells. How come there are so many tiny baby snail shells available to crafters? How does that happen? I wonder if I should do the same with this one. As I said earlier, not necessary. This silver pen, it's a proper resin edging pen. it will stay. I'll see you later. It's going to be a few hours. There we go. So I did dome around over the silver at the edges in the end, and it has given it rather a nice finish. Hope you like it. It's sealed that foil in, and it's really made that flourish paste pop, and it's sealed my little starfish in as well. Let's have a look at the other one. That's worked a treat. Again, the sealing around the edge, just domed around there. And what it's done is it's actually created like a smooth paint all over my hands, a smooth curve up to the rim as well. Isn't that nice? Well, I hope that's given you some ideas, folks. What I'm going to do is stick some little rubber feet on the back of these. Probably need to just sand this edge off first. It's a little bit sharp. And they'll be ready to go off to the charity shop. So don't forget, if you like this sort of thing, do subscribe. It's totally free. And of course, that means you'll know when I'm doing some more funky projects like these. Big thank you to all who've already subscribed, and a nice shout out to my lovely members as well. Thanks everyone, and I will see you for the next video.